It's Kannon, and they are back. The Chainsmokers, where they've been for 2 years. You're about to find out. And they were not having a boring time. I'll leave it at that. Subscribe to our channel and like the video if you would. That's how you can win a virtual meet and greet with your favorite artists. We've got some big ones coming up in 2022. And right now, Chainsmokers on OHP Uncut. Let's go.
The OHP Uncut Podcast with Kannon.
Where are you guys?
We are in Los Angeles in our homes.
How was the break?
Where do we begin?
Yeah. Didn't feel like a break.
Yeah.
But this isn't like a break that a lot of artists take. This is a little bit different. You went to Hawaii, take it from there. Like, what happened in Hawaii? Be real. Like, what did you do there?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it was the strangest kind of situation. So, you know, we finished our album in super late in 2019, finished our arena tour. Kind of felt like the first time in our whole career where all of these things lined up. And it was like, there was nothing we had to work on or do or thought that like we had another tour coming up or whatever. And it kind of occurred as we were exhausted, we were drained, you know, it'd basically been like nonstop for 8 years, like 150 shows a year, a song every 4 to 6 weeks. And we felt like kind of creatively drained. And we decided that, you know, this is like pre-COVID too, that we were going to take, you know, as much time off as we needed to kind of recharge and come back with an album that, you know, we couldn't be more proud of. We didn't know, you know, if and when that would happen, but that was kind of like what we expected. And we decided right away that we're like, let's just go to Hawaii, you know, like go take like 2 or 3 weeks there. And, you know, we'll bring some, you know, equipment to record if we feel like that. But, you know, also if you just want to surf all day and not do that too, that's awesome as well. So we did all the things you'd imagine, you know, eat poke, surf, did mushrooms, drank a lot, chilled out. We went with like Emily Warren, who's like our longtime, you know, collaborator friend, Ian Kirkpatrick, who's an amazing producer, Wethan, and then a couple other friends. And, you know, first few days went exactly as you would imagine Hawaii. We didn't even think about music. We just kind of like listened to a lot of music, obviously, while we were hanging out. And then suddenly on like, I think it was like the 5th night, we just like got inspired and we just, you know, plugged in, and that kind of became the backbone of what this album was. And it was really nice because for the first time in, you know, maybe our whole career, it felt like we could like take the risks musically. Like there was no pressure about delivering anything or expectation of what it would be. And it kind of allowed us to, you know, creatively go places I don't think we would have been able to otherwise. And then what was even nuts is then like we got back like, you know, after Hawaii and COVID happened. And it was like, you know, when you go away, you can't help but be nervous about like the world kind of just passing you by. And
I was going to ask that. I was like, it kind of takes balls to do that, because like, what if all the people that depend on you or are fans of you aren't down with that and they're not there when you get back?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, oh man, like watching the summers festivals go on and like all of these artists release music and everything. Like it was like, I mean, I know, you know, you deal with it, but we'd never done it before. And then, you know, the world in its entirety kind of just froze in place, obviously, when COVID happened. And, you know, obviously we all wish it just straight up never happened, period. But it was a really interesting place to find ourselves in, you know, and, you know, at the same time, though, while it was great to have literally every free second available for the next 2 years to work on music because nothing else is happening, you know, like I think everyone struggled with like creativity, you know, the solitude of it all, like, you know, it was a stressful time for everybody. So we tried not, though, I think we were pretty good about keeping in mind about not letting that reflect in the music. You know, I think we were riding the high of Hawaii and wanted to carry that energy into the new year. And it felt even more important as we were finishing the album that like we were all kind of coming out of this dark, isolated place. And, you know, we should make music and an album that, you know, celebrates life. And that's what we hope this, you know, next project does for people.
I love that. I'm going to ask this question not in like a salacious way, but I mean, you guys went together. Do you ever did you not feel like you maybe needed some time apart to kind of find yourself and then come back together? Or was that just not necessary for you guys?
I always say like the luckiest thing that ever happened to me was meeting Alex. Just someone that's like so aligned creatively, the amount we want to work is always the same. We never want to leave anything on the table. We like obviously get, in tips with each other, like any like brothers do and stuff. But like, I don't know, we've always like, I think like thrown ourselves in the deep end, no matter like how far we've come, we always find a new way where we're a new place that we're super novice in and go and we need each other to like, build ourselves up and learn together in those spaces. And I think, even this whole experience, like taking 2 years off to write an album was a new thing for us, even though we've been making music for 8 years together. And I think that, I don't know, we're best friends. And so, there probably are some benefits from doing some things independently, but I don't think we needed to for this album. I mean, I'm so out of this thing. I can't wait for everyone to hear it. It's the most, I feel like it's exactly what we were meant to make. I just can't wait.
I'm glad you understand the way I meant that question. I mean, like even my kid, I need some time away sometimes. You know what I mean? I'm like, I gotta realign my brain. It's interesting. How did you guys find the common thread of what you wanted to do next? And how would you define it? Like, how would you describe it differently than what you were doing before? What's sort of like the new zone you found?
In terms of our sound?
In terms of your sound. Yeah.
We really reflected on what we thought was most special about the Chainsmokers and, what emotion, what types of lyrics, what feeling, what kind of euphoric drop, and then what would be like innovative based on like, dance music had such a long run in like the pop spotlight. And I think it's been like hard to innovate a little bit. There's amazing techno and house music coming out right now. And there's a lot of like great artists like in between everywhere, but like it's not having the same moment. And it's kind of like, okay, what does like, I feel like we are very pop dance. What is like the evolution of that sound like? And there was a lot of experimentation and a lot of, I do feel like this album is very genreless in a way. It's definitely the backbone of it. Every song makes you move. There's a drop that kind of turns your head every time. That's like unexpected. We really had fun doing that. There's a lot of songs that take like right-hand turns, like just go in a completely different direction they change BPM, they change key. So we really had like a really, just an awesome time being able to do that. And I think doing a whole album and, putting out a body of work together, like enabled us to do that for the first time. So yeah, there's a lot of new surprises, which I'm really excited about too, because I feel like when you put out songs single by single, where I think that was like, strategically like a cool thing for us to do. And that's traditionally how dance music has been released, single by single. But by doing an album, I know I'm going to put out, there are probably going to be, hopefully there are 4 or 5 really popular tracks, hopefully, but that leaves, another, I'm not going to say how many tracks are on our album, but like a bunch of other songs that can just belong to our fans, like ones that aren't going to be like, before when we were putting out songs, like here's a single, everyone pay attention to it. I feel like fans lose a little bit of ownership over it. Whereas, I remember when, I was a kid growing up and there were songs that I loved that were my favorites on the album that were just mine. And like, there were ones that I enjoyed with all my friends at the party or hanging out or driving in the car and smoking weed and whatever. But there were a couple that like were just for me. And I feel like this album gives our fans that opportunity.
You ever like envision in your mind, like where the listener would be when they're listening and what frame of mind they would be in and how it's making them feel? Is there do you put that together in your mind, or do you just make what you want to make and then let it go where it goes?
Yeah, you can't really. And like songs, like they all come out differently. Like, Alex will be playing piano chords and I'll be like, those are sick. What are those? And he'll be like, oh, just something I was tinkering with. And then he'll give it to me and I'll try to write a melody over it. And then we'll build a song off of that. Or sometimes we'll just have like one lyric that we think is iconic and we'll write a song around that. Or sometimes we'll just like sit down and do drum programming all day and like write a song out of that. And then once they're written, like a lot of songs on this album, because we had 2 years, we like went back and ripped apart. Like, we're like, this is cool, but this verse just like lags. And the whole song's so great. Like it deserves better. And so thinking about the listener, I just think we really made sure we made songs that like, when they were done, it was like all I wanted to listen to. It was like exactly like our taste, you know what I mean? And that was really cool. And so it'll be cool to put that out there. And I know not everyone will like it as much as we do, but it'll be interesting to cast that net and see like who kind of identifies with something that's really purely us.
I will say though, we like say this one thing a lot, which we call it like main character energy. And it's like the idea that you're like listening to your, you know, like a song, and you kind of like, you just, as you describe, like put yourself in whatever situation as kind of like the, you know, main character of your world. You know, it's like walking down the street in New York, listening to music, and you're just like, the song becomes the soundtrack of your kind of vibe and life in that moment. And I think this album really accomplishes that.
God, what a good answer. That was a really, really good answer.
Glad you remember that, Alex.
Oh man. So then tell me, like when it comes to High, what was the granule that track started with, and then how did you build around that?
Yeah, I mean, the song's been through so many phases. I mean, you know, this was one of the last songs we made on the album. We made our whole album, and you know, High is a single, and I feel like what we learned is like singles are kind of like the connective tissue to the album. I think it's easier because of that to like write them later. I know a lot of, you know, iconic singles have been written after, over the past couple of years have been written after like the album was delivered. And then like, okay, now how do we connect this to the world? That song started with a hook, and then we wanted to make this like really like kind of, I don't even know what genre it is. Like, is it like, it's kind of like pop punk. It's kind of trap. It has some like indie, like alternative vibes to it, like in the pre-hook, pre-chorus, which I don't think anyone's heard yet. But like we wanted to make again like this, and then it has this like crazy like dance drop in the end, which it's like we wanted to like throw everyone all over the place, but make it be like very condensed and make sense and palatable. And so yeah, that was really fun to write.
How many tracks are there on the album total?
I think it'll probably be somewhere between 13, 15 songs. And that was a long discussion. I mean, we wrote probably like 40 songs, maybe more over the course of this break. But, you know, we listened to like a lot of our favorite artists that put out like 19 track albums, and it's just too much music. And it's not like you're mad about getting music from your favorite artist. It's just like impossible to listen to 19 songs these days, given like how short everyone's attention span is. And, you know, it felt like, you know, as an artist, it's really hard to pick your favorites. Like I would love to have included, you know, more music, but I think we picked the best songs that tell the story we wanted to tell. And, you know, it's not to say those other songs won't have a moment as well, but I think, you know, it was the right thing to do. Ultimately it was you know, I don't want to say less is more. I think it's just exactly right how it's supposed to be. So we're pumped. And also, by the way, if High is a hit, I will do a genius.com on the true story behind that entire song. But only if it hits #1 on Billboard.
I think it's going to be on the way, man. You might want to start making plans for that. Have you also noticed that tracks have gotten shorter? Like it feels like over the past year or year and a half, like tracks have gotten down to be like 2 minutes or so, and that's it. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. I think it's like, I mean, I think some people are definitely playing the game of like shorter attention spans, like streaming on Spotify playlists.
That's right. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
But I do don't want to discredit like a lot of artists. Like I just think that, you know, people are experimenting with the format of a song in different ways. Like the same thing we did with Roses, you know, way back in the day. It's like, maybe you don't need like 3 verses or 2 verses and a pre-chorus and a hook and then a bridge and then a, you know, finale. You can mix it up, and, you know, they're all like, you know, these shorter songs, some of them are amazing. Like they're like great expressions of you know, what artists are trying to say and accomplish. And, you know, sometimes they leave you wanting more. I think, you know, TikTok more than anything has probably changed like the landscape of music, just in terms of like these wacky intros and weird sounds. And, you know, and I don't think you can like, I mean, some artists are probably really good at like being able, like a Megan Thee Stallion. I don't know if she's like intentionally just like nailing it every time. Because it seems like, you know, she has all these great ad libs and pieces that like make them so complimentary to platforms like that. But I think it's unintentional probably. And it's just like, you know, it's really cool. I mean, I think TikTok has actually done, you know, a lot of good for music and discovering new musicians.
I can't wait to hear the whole thing. I can't wait to play this song for everyone right now. Thank you for your time. I really, really do appreciate it. I'm excited to see you guys in Vegas before too long, man.
Oh yeah, brother. Good to see you.
The OHP Uncut Podcast with Kannon.